which they weren't.
So did you accidentally fall for that misinformation?
No, I didn't believe any of it.
Or did you know it was wrong from the get-go?
I hadn't got a clue.
So why did you cite it?
Because the people wanted to know the truth. And if they had known the truth, Tom, the riots would not have been of the same magnitude.
But you're not just people. You are an elected representative of the people in a position...
Representing.
Nigel Farage sat down with Tom Swarbrick days after the Southport attack. And there's one moment in that interview that I think matters more than anything else he said that week. Swarbrick asks him a simple question. Did he accidentally fall for misinformation, or did he know it was wrong all along? Farage's answer isn't what you'd expect from a man who's spent 30 years in politics. Watch what happens next, because Swarbrick doesn't let it go. Let's watch it together. And before I tell you to like and hit that subscribe button, please allow me the chance to earn that from you.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Good afternoon.
We have limited time, so I hope you won't mind if I jump straight in what you've been saying in the last few days. You began with a video in the immediate aftermath of the Southport stabbings that engaged in conspiracy theories about who did this and about whether the police were telling the truth. You said, and I'm quoting here, some reports suggest he, the man charged, was known to the security services. Which reports?
This is the problem, isn't it? One of the reasons the Southport riots were as bad as they were is we weren't told the truth. There were stories online from some very prominent folks with big followings, Andrew Tate, etc., suggesting the man had crossed the English Channel in a boat in October 2023. Other suggestions that he was an active Muslim. And much of this led to the riots that we saw.
But you amplified that because you said some reports suggest.
I asked a very simple question. Was this person known or not? Now,
to the security services.
Absolutely.
And that's a perfectly legitimate question, which was raised by Yvette Cooper. But, Nigel
Yes.
Farage, you didn't just do that, did you? You said
Yes.
some reports suggest he was known to the security services. Those reports were from a fake news website, amplified by Russian state TV and, as you mentioned, Andrew Tate. Which ones were you looking at?
Which adds to what I was asking for. Give us some clarity. Remember, the London Bridge attacker, we knew within an hour that this person was known to the security services. Whenever in Northern Ireland there was a terrorist outrage, very quickly people were told the background of the perpetrator.
But you didn't
I
just
asked
stop
a
there.
very simple question.
You said some reports suggest he was known to the security services. Those reports were a fake news website, Russian state TV,
Well,
and
I could
Andrew
have
Tate.
said,
So which one was it, Nigel Farage?
I could have said some reports suggest he crossed the Channel last October. Some reports suggest he's an active
And all of
Muslim.
that was unfounded.
I did none of those things. What I asked for was clarity. We didn't get clarity,
You didn't
and
just
I would
do
argue that what happened in Southport would not have been of the same magnitude had the truth been told, and told very, very quickly. It wasn't for many hours that we learnt more.
No, you're right, but that was the chronology of it. But you don't need to amplify the mystery.
I asked the question.
To cite, quotes, some reports suggest the reports are fake, and you accept that now. They're misinformation.
There were thousands of fake reports everywhere.
And you cited them.
All of which puts the emphasis on the questions being answered, which they weren't.
So did you accidentally fall for that misinformation?
No, I didn't believe any of it.
Or did you know it was wrong from the get-go?
I hadn't got a clue.
So why did you cite it?
Because the people wanted to know the truth. And if they had known the truth, Tom, the riots would not have been of the same magnitude.
But you're not just people. You are an elected representative of the people in a position...
Representing
in
a question
of authority.
Representing a question that was being asked by millions at the time, which regrettably did not get answered. Now look, here's the point. All right? There are people out there suggesting that in some way, despite after 30 years of fighting all sorts of different elections, of believing that the democratic process is the way to deal with arguments, debates, and solve problems. I have never been involved in street protest. I have never been involved in violence. I have always been 1,000 miles away.
Well, literally in this case,
from
I think you've been
far-right agitators, from conspiracy theorists. I've always been as far away from those people as I can possibly be.
Well, you had some in UKIP, which I think is one of the reasons why you left UKIP. Paul Waters.
Well, actually, I left UKIP after 25 years.
So back to what you
I
said.
left UKIP after 25 years because the leadership at the time encouraged Tommy Robinson to be a part of it. I
So
did
back to
more.
what you
I
said.
did more to get rid of the BNP as a political force in Britain than anybody else in the
You
country.
amplified this misinformation.
No,
Hang on a sec.
Tom.
No, you did.
You are getting
because
this
you
wrong.
said some
I
reports
said,
suggest.
give us clarity.
You didn't just say that, though, Nigel.
I did.
You also said the internet was awash with all sorts of theories, all of which proved to be unfounded.
Yes.
But that's what led to the riots in Southport. But you indulged in those theories
By the way,
that proved to be unfounded.
I've still not been told whether this person was on a list or not. I don't know the answer to
no
that.
one
Do
knows.
you?
No, I don't know. But so
you
that's
think
why it's a legitimate question.
Do you think we deserve to know?
Absolutely. I think the police need to give us the
So
answer.
my question is still valid.
Your question is valid, but not in the way that you put it, because you know what you're doing. You suggested, some reports suggest, that he was known to the security service, that he came on in a boat, that he was an asylum seeker. That's not true.
And I didn't.
And my question to you is, did you
didn't-
know that
I
was
didn't.
not true?
I don't know now whether this man was known to
So
the police
why are
or
you
not.
promoting those reports?
Because I want to know the truth. I wanted to know it then, and I want to know it now. And I get the feeling we're not always being told the whole truth.
Okay, let's come to that, because you also said that. You wondered whether, and I'm quoting again, the truth about Southport was being withheld from us. What evidence do you have that the police are lying to people?
The evidence was withheld on Southport. Had we been told very quickly, as we could have been, that in fact this fella had been born in the United Kingdom, that his parents were Rwandans, that he didn't come from an Islamist type background, had we been told he hadn't arrived by boat, I suggest to you that what happened that night in Southport would not have been of the same magnitude. Would you not agree?
I've got no idea.
Would you not agree?
That's a
What was-
counterfactual.
well, if you think
what
of- no,
evidence
no,
do you
no,
have,
no.
Nigel
If
Farage,
you
that
think-
the police are
if you
misleading
think-
people?
I don't know.
Well, so why did you say it? Why did you
So
say the
can
truth
you
about
d-
Southport is being
well, then
withheld
you
from us?
tell me whether this man was on the suspect list or not. You don't know the answer to
No.
it. Don't we deserve to know it?
But that's not to say
Don't
that people
we
are
deserve
lying.
to know it?
That's to say that we don't know. You don't know yet. So you
Yep.
could just wait rather than tell people
Well,
that the
I've
police
now
might be lying.
waited. I've now waited nearly a week, and I've still not. And that question has still not been answered.
So what evidence did you... Back to my question.
It
You
is-
have
it
no
is ut-
evidence
no, Tom,
that the
it
police
is
are withholding
utterly
information.
legitimate to ask questions.
It is.
Utterly legitimate, and that is all that I did.
But not
And-
having an answer and filling the silence with "they're lying to you" is not legitimate.
I don't believe we're being told the full truth yet about this person. I want to know. I think we all
so the
want
police
to
are
know.
lying.
I didn't say that. Not telling the truth is not the same as lying.
The truth about Southport was being
Yeah.
withheld from us. Do you still think the truth is being withheld by the police from the people?
I still don't know who this man is.
Truth that you thought people already knew
I
because you cited
still
some reports
don't
saying that he come on a
know
boat.
who this man is, and I repeat the point: had those questions been answered, far from stoking riots, it would have actually calmed them down considerably.
But you allowed it to be stoked because you cited
No,
the fake reports
no.
and you used
I
the fake
gave- I
reports
gave
as
the
a
police
way,
the opportunity.
as a met,
I
as
gave the
as
police
a
the
way to say
opportunity.
that the police are not.
I gave the police the opportunity to dampen down speculation. They should have done it, and I bet they regret not doing it.
Do you want to retract the comments and delete that video?
No, I want to know the truth.
You don't want to retract the comment that the police
No.
are lying to people.
I never said that.
The police aren't giving you the full
I'm sorry.
information.
I'm sorry. I've come in and had an honest conversation. Don't make it up. Don't twist it, because that's what other people are doing.
Accusing me
and,
of
And by the
twisting.
way, yes, you just have. You just have
You
twisted.
told people, I'm
you
quoting,
just
I'm only
have
quoting
twisted
you,
the
Nigel.
words.
You wondered whether
Tom
the truth
Swarbrick.
about Southport was being withheld from us.
We have a situation in this country, right, where ever since Black Lives Matter, there is increasing distrust of the police in this sense. The idea that there's two-tier policing is now widespread in society. That is something that very urgently needs to be dealt
I'm
with.
going to ask you about that.
Very urgently.
But I just have to issue this clarification because you have said in the course of the conversation something that could be sub judice, and we just need to be very careful about the charge that has been laid against this person. I think that he's been described in the course of it. So we pause there to be very careful about what we're going to say about an open case. What is two-tier policing?
Two-tier policing is you deal with different types of protests and different types of crime in different ways. One of the classic cases is stop and search. Stop and search. By the way, a policy that is wildly popular across the country. Doesn't matter whether people are on the left or the right of politics. The idea that the police should randomly stop and search people for knives in the streets is extraordinarily popular whenever I say it.
You
and
have
yet,
said-
and yet,
That in Hare Hills in Leeds,
yet.
police ran away and allowed a riot. Is that two-tier policing?
I think if you look at the way the police dealt with the Hare Hills protests and dealt with the Southport protests, I think any fair-minded person would think there were two different police reactions. Now, I mean, let me be clear.
But aren't they because two different incidents? They're two different types of protest.
Well, yeah, but they're both violent. They both set fire to things. They both threaten property. They both threaten law and order. And so I mean, look, I tell you something. The perception of two-tier policing is very, very dangerous indeed. And by the way, we've got a situation now with violent riots going on, by far the worst we've seen since 2011. But actually, I think 2011 was a mass outbreak of criminality, opportunistic criminality. This is different.
Yep.
These are two sides with deeply entrenched positions.
Back to two-tier policing.
All right?
What you're really saying is not that there are different operational decisions appropriate to the severity of the situation that police.
Yes, I am saying that.
But that's what policing is, isn't it? Here's Graham Whetton, who spent 30 years in frontline public order roles with the Met. Of course there are tiers in police response, I'm quoting, because you make operational decisions appropriate to the severity of the situation. But there are not tiers based on preference or favouritism.
Well, I tell you look, what we know are the police forces in this country are terrified of being accused of being racist, and therefore police things differently. And stop and search, which I began with a moment ago, is a classic example of where we've downplayed stop and search in areas with higher black proportions of the community. By the way, despite the fact the majority of those that die of knife crime are black people themselves.
But the operationalising of police decisions is something that the police have to answer for. They need to be accountable for those decisions. Yes. But it's not two tiers based on the colour of someone's skin or the favouritism the police might show one type of community, is it? We agree there.
No, we don't agree.
Right.
I think we use a softer approach on some groups than others.
And your example for that is?
Well, I think Black Lives Matter, the way that was policed, is very interesting. I mean, people tearing down statues and chucking them in the dock with police just standing by and watching. And I think if you contrast the policing...
Those people were arrested.
Yes, and never even got a criminal charge, unbelievably.
Because the jury
just extraordinarily.
But that's what the jury is there for,
The police made no attempt to stop that from happening. We even saw Winston Churchill's statue being defaced. We saw the cenotaph being abused. All of those things happened with the police literally just watching. And I tell you something. Out there in the country, there is a widespread perception that we have two-tier policing. Now,
it might be the perception, but the reality might be different. Let me bring you the words of Graham Whetton again.
Well, perception and reality.
I'm going to give you this quote from Graham Whetton, who spent 30 years doing the job you're telling him how to do. The Met used, on BLM policing, the Met used an advance of the mounted branch, one of their most impactful tactics, which I've only seen deployed a couple of times in my whole career, and not at any of the incidents in the last week. So there's an argument to say the Met went in quite hard in some forms on the BLM protest.
I'm sorry.
In a way that they didn't do in the last week.
They took the knee in the street. You know, we can argue over fine points, but here is the real point. At no point in the last week or in the previous 30 years have I ever encouraged the use of violence. Have I ever encouraged the use of anti-democratic means? And yet, you know, you get the internet and people saying things on the internet. We have senior Labour politicians like Annie MacDonald saying, I wanted the riots to happen. We have former Conservative MPs like Anna Soubry saying that I orchestrated the riots. We have LBC presenters like James O'Brien calling them the Farage riots. I have had nothing to do with any form of street violence now or at any point in my career.
But
and
people
this
aren't
level,
just being arrested for
and
going
this
out
level, this level of incitement to violence against me, which is utterly baseless, has led to a huge increase in my security uptick.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you have been...
No. You as a broadcaster too have that responsibility. LBC as a broadcaster have that responsibility. You're splitting hairs.
I'm not splitting hairs, Nigel.
You are splitting hairs.
I'm keeping you to the words that you use.
I am telling you that in this country there is a widespread perception of two-tier policing.
But you're also in a position to give them the reality, Nigel.
Yes,
and the reality might be very different from their perception.
No, I personally believe that we police different communities according to their racial backgrounds in different ways, and I want it to end.
And the examples of that are?
The examples of that are, for the third time...
The Black Lives Matter protest?
For the third time, the way that stop and search is implemented, or, frankly, not implemented.
There are people being arrested, obviously, for what they did in protesting on the streets. There are people being arrested for whipping up racial hatred online, for encouraging violence online. Do you worry that based on what you've said in the last few days, you might get a knock on the door from the police?
No.
You don't think that's going to come your way?
What, for asking the truth about the perpetrator of a heinous crime?
For suggesting that the police are lying without any evidence?
I didn't say they lied. You've done that. That's the third time you've done that, and you are irresponsible and wrong to do so. You are irresponsible and wrong to do so.
I could give you the quote again, Nigel, that you said the truth about Southport was being withheld from us.
I didn't call them. I didn't say they were lying.
So they're deliberately not giving people the truth.
That's a very different thing to lying. So don't use that word again, please. You've done it 3 times and you're wrong.
In Hare Hills, you said the police ran away and allowed a riot. The police say they pulled back temporarily as they had become...
What's the difference?
As they had become the sole target of those intent on causing trouble, and then went on to arrest people. Again, coming back to Mr. Wetton's comment, who did the job for 30 years, on Hare Hills, it started out looking like a standard call that many officers will go to, an incident at an address with social services trying to remove children, and then it blew up with officers coming under attack, and because of how quickly it escalated, withdrawal is the best tactic. Why do you think you can tell police how best to do their job?
All I can do is what all of us do, is to look at the facts before us, the evidence before us, as we see it, and draw conclusions. And I draw the conclusion that we have 2-tier policing. And
But you might be wrong.
Mr. Weston, I'm always prepared to accept that I'm wrong, which is why perhaps a bit more engagement the other way from the police might be useful. You see, when Sir Mark Rowley, the boss of the Metropolitan Police, is asked this very question by a reporter yesterday, all he does is manhandle the microphone away, which leads to that suspicion becoming even deeper. Tom, we've got these riots going on. We've had horrendous standoffs, appalling behaviour, setting fire to hotels. I mean, things that are almost unimaginably ghastly. On the other side, we've had Muslim intimidation of LBC reporters, amongst others. All right. So there are some terrible things happening on both sides, albeit the thuggery of...
Well, we don't know that they're Muslim.
Well, look, we know the communities they come from. We know the face masks they're wearing. I think we know.
We know it was terrible.
I think we know. I think we know it's pretty bad. All right. And when they're shouting, free Gaza and genocide, I think it's a fair bet to say who they are. Here's my real big point. Okay, we can quell the riots. The police can do whatever they need to do. We can bring the army in. We can do whatever. Unless we solve what's really at the heart of this problem, our danger is we become like France, where these things don't go away. They flare up every 3 months, 6 months, every year. There are, right at the heart of this, some very, very fundamental concerns about societal breakdown in our country. And there is no doubt that we have to address issues like uncontrolled mass immigration and division of our communities. And what I'm looking for is a long-term solution, not just a short-term one.
I don't know what any of that has got to do with Southport.
Don't you?
I don't. No, because the man charged was born in
Do
Cardiff.
you know what? You want to get out more. You want to get out more. You want to get out more.
The man charged was born in Cardiff.
Well, why didn't they tell people that? And then maybe the riots would not have been that bad.
But you jumped to conclusions,
They did not
Nigel.
tell people.
You jumped to conclusions based on having looked at Andrew Tate's Twitter feed or whatever.
They did not tell people before those riots sparked who he was and where he came from. And if they'd done that, this would have been far less serious.
But do you think you could have said in those circumstances, we don't know yet who this person is, so let's not jump to conclusions, let's wait and see and condemn how awful the attack was?
Or
I could have been an option.
Or I could have said, tell us the truth, and maybe this will calm down, which is what I did.
The people rioting, some of them look to you. They see you as someone who espouses their worldview, their politics. Would you speak to them directly now to tell them to stop?
As I've done repeatedly over the last week. There is the reason that we fight, and I've fought for 30 years in European elections, by-elections, general elections, is I believe that parliamentary democracy is the way we stop violence overtaking our society. So I condemn all acts of political violence, whoever they're committed by. And let me tell you, the idea that, devotees of some of these extreme figures are fans of mine is a long way from the truth.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, was on LBC the other day, and she was asked about the responsibility that politicians have in these moments. She says, we have a responsibility to hold the community together and say, let's get the facts, and then let's look at what the actual solutions are and what we can do about the horrific situation that we find ourselves in, not to stir up this fake news online. But that is in part what you did.
No,
whether
it's
knowingly
not.
or
No,
accidentally,
that's
you lent
completely-
into some of the fake news.
I asked for the fake news to be knocked down. I asked for the truth to be told. And Angela Rayner,
You
talk
said
about...
our country is being destroyed. By who?
Oh, yes. Literally, our communities are being separated and destroyed.
By whom?
I think the political process, and by the way, it may be Labour in government, but the Conservatives are far more responsible. I think the fracturing of society because of mass immigration is one of the most serious social deconstructions we've ever seen in the history of these islands. And I honestly, I think there is a way we can deal with it. We won't solve it overnight, but we have to try.
So when Elon Musk says that civil war is inevitable, do you agree with him?
I pray that he's wrong.
Do you agree with him?
I pray that he's wrong.
So you do disagree with him?
No, I don't agree with him.
No. So you disagree with him?
I pray that he's wrong. How much stronger can I put it to you? I pray that he's wrong. Because you see, I see France, I see Paris, I see Marseille, and they are cities that are in a sort of permanent state of truce, and that truce breaks occasionally, and horrendous riots happen, and there is no prospect in those big French cities of any of this improving. I don't want us to go down that route. I really do not.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK and the Reform MP for Clacton.
Right, let's go back to that moment properly, because I think it's the most important few seconds in the entire interview, and possibly the most important thing said by any politician in the whole Southport story. Within hours of 3 young girls being murdered at a dance class, Nigel Farage posted online suggesting the attacker might have been known to the security services, might have crossed the channel by boat, might have been an active Muslim. He framed all of this as some reports suggest. Swarbrick's question is direct. Did he fall for that misinformation by accident, or did he know from the start it wasn't solid? Farage's answer is that he hadn't got a clue. Not, I checked and it seemed credible. Not, I made a judgment call. He simply didn't know and posted it anyway to an audience of millions in the immediate aftermath of a child murder. I want to sit with that for a second because I think the phrase hadn't got a clue gets treated in the moment almost like a throwaway line, when actually it's the whole story. This isn't a man defending a position he researched and got wrong. This is a man admitting he shared claims with no basis at all, at the exact moment the country was most volatile, most frightened, and most primed to react to exactly that kind of claim. And when Swarbrick asks why he did it anyway, the answer shifts. Suddenly it's not about the specific claims being true or false, it's about the public deserving to know, about wanting clarity, about the vacuum of information being the real problem. Watch how the goalposts move in real time. He goes from citing specific false claims to defending the general principle of asking questions, as though those are the same thing. They're not. And Swarbrick's line, the one that closes our hook, gets right to why. Farage isn't a bloke in a pub theorising to his mates. He's an elected representative in a position of actual authority with a platform bigger than almost anyone else in the country. That distinction matters enormously because the standard for a backbench pub conversation and the standard for an MP posting to millions in the hours after a child murder simply cannot be the same standard. One is speculation, the other is amplification with consequences, and we know what some of those consequences were: riots, hotels set on fire, widespread claims of two-tier policing that Farage repeats throughout this interview without ever once being able to give Swarbrick a solid example that holds up, beyond pointing at how Black Lives Matter protests were policed differently to a violent riot, which, as Swarbrick points out, were 2 entirely different types of event to begin with. And for what it's worth, since Reid's whole thing is evidence over feeling, a Parliamentary Home Affairs Committee later looked into exactly this claim and found no evidence of two-tier policing in how the Southport riots were handled, and called the claims themselves disgraceful. That's not my opinion. That's the actual conclusion of the people whose job it was to check. So here's where I land on the hadn't got a clue moment specifically. I don't think Farage is uniquely evil for doing this. I think he did something depressingly common, which is treating "I don't actually know if this is true" as basically the same thing as "I'm just asking questions," when those are completely different acts with completely different levels of responsibility attached. Anyone can wonder something out loud to a mate. Not everyone can wonder something out loud to millions of people in the rawest, angriest, most dangerous hours a country's had in over a decade, and walk away afterward saying he was simply representing what people wanted to know. Because that's the sleight of hand at the heart of this whole interview. He didn't say, "I lied." He said, "I asked a question," and then hid inside the ambiguity of that phrase every time Swarbrick tried to pin down whether the specific things he'd shared were true. It's a genuinely clever rhetorical move. It's also, I'd argue, exactly the kind of thing an elected representative shouldn't be allowed to get away with when 3 children are already dead and a country is one spark away from tearing itself apart.